Over a four-night span, one of the first events of the Democratic National Convention, as it began airing on national television on Monday evening, was in memoriam segment that mourned the more than 165,000 Americans who have died from COVID-19. You can read the segment as mawkish or as cynical or as a cynical exploitation of emotion for partisan ends, the stuff of a Hollywood award show wandering awkwardly into the wrong theater. But the segment was precisely what the moment called for. It offered viewers the opportunity to pause for a moment and consider that number once again. 165,000 plus dead. All those lives, all of the pain of the people they left behind. Political conventions as spectacles that are aired to the public, which typically traffic in willful optimism. The participants talk in breezy tones about bridges to the future, but about possibility and prosperity and better days ahead. There's pageantry, there's confetti, there is at the lowest moments the Macarena, and there is inevitably the quadrennial reminder that more binds us together than tears us apart. Conventions are infomercials basically, and while an infomercial will briefly acknowledge a problem, like a messy home, a messy life, a knife that just won't cut. It is much more interested in the end in selling you a solution. The Democrats certainly had a product, which was Joe Biden, Kamala Harris 2020, and they offered it to consumers in four easy installments: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The party's pitch this year, though, was radically different from anything that has been done before. It had to be. The convention that was originally going to air from the Wisconsin Center in Milwaukee took place instead in multiple settings: a soundstage in Los Angeles where Evan Longoria, Tracy Ellis Ross, Kerry Washington, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus served as MCs, anchoring each evening's proceedings. The Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia, where Barack Obama delivered a speech about the threats that the Trump administration poses to American democracy. A beach in Rhode Island, where a state party chair delivered 34 of the state's 35 delegate votes to Joe Biden, accompanied by a chef bearing a large plate of calamari. American Samoa, a cattle ranch in Montana, the craggy coast of California. The convention took place nowhere, which gave it the freedom to be everywhere. Instead of appearing on stage as participants have in years past, politicians and activists and voters simply recorded videos of themselves, often from their homes. Politics kitchen table no longer merely proverbial. There was some awkwardness, yes, as cues got jumbled and cameras captured politicians and energetically delivering their speeches to empty rooms. Some of the Zoomified videos were shaky and grainy. That didn't matter. In fact, it helped. Politicians are forever in search of ways to telegraph authenticity. Here, as the DNC went DIY, which was one, Kamala Harris, making history as she accepted her party's nomination on Wednesday, shared her life story and connected it to the present political moment. She delivered her speech, and not to a crowd in a carnivorous arena, but rather to people gathered at home. The address read, not as a speech at all, but as a conversation. That sense of intimacy was heightened by the DNC's willingness to admit the obvious, that it was making a case to a nation in pain. Many of those who spoke acknowledged the depth of America's losses of jobs, of health, of hope, of global standing, of lives. Um, Illinois, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, Philanese, Floyd, George, Phil, well, we'll just call him Phil, but I'm not sure how you say his name. So Phil Floyd, George Floyd's brother, spoke of the meaning of his brother's legacy, but he did not take refugee and easy optimism. He added, George should be alive today, Breonna Taylor should be alive today, Ahmaud Arbery should be alive today, Eric Garner should still be alive today, Stephen Clark, Atiana Jefferson, Sandra Bland, they should all be alive. Floyd then led viewers in a moment of silence to honor them and the many other souls that we lost due to hate and injustice. In a world full of noise, few things are as powerful as quietness. After Floyd spoke, the DNC screen showed people in their homes united in the absence of sound and their eyes closed, their heads bowed, individual acts of contemplation and mourning made communal. That moment of eloquent silence set the stage for a later appearance by Gwen Carr, Eric Garner's mother, who joined a virtual roundtable with Biden. It set the stage for parents of children murdered by gun violence to share their pain in public. It set the stage for last night's video tribute to John Lewis. It set the stage for Kristen Urquiza, who lost her father to COVID-19, to tell the convention audience the coronavirus has made it clear that there are two Americans, the America that Donald lives in and the America that my father died in. The Democrats understood the power of providing a place to grieve when there have been so few other places to do so. They also understood that mourning itself, written in the pageantry of a party convention, could serve as a rebuke to a fake president who seems constitutionally incapable of empathy. Biden has often talked publicly about the pain of loss of his wife and his younger daughter, and of his older son Beau, and how the hurt resolves into an ongoing ache. Barack Obama, as he warned that Trump's re-election could lead to the death of American democracy, seemed to fight back tears during his address. Michelle Obama offered a similarly dire assessment. Throughout the week, leader after leader eschewed platitudes for pain. They talked bluntly about the death toll. The numbers that they cited sometimes varied between 140,000 and 165,000 or higher. In the variations, the writer William Selatan pointed out you could determine when the speakers had pre-recorded their message, like the rings of a tree that is being felled in a real time. Political conventions traditionally talk in soaring terms in conclusion, about the people, about political parties as agents of collective interest and practice. They are run by a narrow group, some members elected, some not, that make decisions about the most intimate elements of people's lives, their health, their economic mobility, their place in American history. The term American society. The term smoke-filled room comes from political conventions, specifically one that took place 100 years ago, the Republican National Convention of the 1920s. The decision makers of that particular event, after several ballots and presumably several cigars, ended up nominating as a compromise Warren G. Harding of Ohio, whom historians consistently rank among the worst performing of the U.S. fake presidents at the time, which Trump will beat him in that. 100 years later, the Democrats tried their best to bridge the distance between the public and the politicians who claimed to work on their behalf. They succeeded in part by offering an event that, instead of ignoring people's pains, acknowledged it, and they shared it and they embraced it. Even the awkwardness struck a mournful note. After Kamala Harris delivered her acceptance speech, Biden came out to greet her. Normally, they would clasp hands and beam as the crowd cheered and the balloons dropped. The running mates indeed seemed to want to hug each other, but they could not. This limitation, too, was intensely relatable. The show's cameras briefly panned to the room in which Harris had delivered her speech. A sea of empty chairs spaced out, lit in a ghostly gray. The negative spaces of all that might have been Monday in memoriam segment was accompanied by "I Remember Everything," a song from John Prine, who died of COVID-19 in April. It got no future in my happiness. The song's lyrics went, though regrets are very few, sometimes a little tenderness was the best that we could all that I could do. Yeah, that's basically true. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Brian Ben White, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And thanks for listening.